Okay, here we go. Here we go. Accepting the unacceptable, believing the unbelievable, supporting the unsupportable. This is America's pathway to hell. Now look, we've been conditioned, we being you, not me, and are still being conditioned, and will be conditioned in the future, so as to always be ready to accept the unacceptable, defend the indefensible. From the most essential and time-tested truths to that which we think, to that which we want, we're being molded into the ultimate model of decadence and immorality. Okay, as impractical as this may sound to you, it's not that hard to brainwash somebody to such an extent that their previously held beliefs and thoughts are completely banished. They're literally erased from the blackboard of their memory, and crap is rewritten. As obvious as it is, it's time for you to admit the fact that you are products of brainwashing. Or if you want to speak scientifically, controlled behavioral engineering and design. Brainwash. Now, come on. Not that long ago, homosexuals and other sexual deviants stayed in the closet. They practiced their perversions in private. It was a shh, don't tell. We, the general population, refused to accept this sort of behavior as either normal or decent. Now today, these same deviants are flaunting their immorality, they're flashing their deviance, flourishing their pride, demanding that the rest of us accept them as normal. In general, the population does accept their right to be deviant. What does that mean? It means the brainwashing in that respect has been successful. Not that long ago, the very thought of homosexuals or deviants being allowed to adopt children was unthinkable. No way in hell. Today, it's not only common practice, it's mandated by law. Good golly, Miss Molly. Not that long ago, couples shacking up, they kept it on the down low. They're humping each other in the privacy of their own home. The shame factor was such that these folks never would consider flaunting their immorality in public. As with homosexuals of the day, they kept these relationships and activities in the closet and out of the eyes of the general public. Not today. Today, the practice of shacking up is so damn common that it's considered absolutely normal and in some cases preferable to marriage. What is wrong with this picture? Okay, let's go on. Not that long ago, interracial marriage was largely frowned upon, especially in the case where blacks and whites married. Without concern for the future of their offspring, they shacked up, married, and spat out babies. Their selfishness was largely frowned upon and not at all acceptable to the general public. Not today. Today, these salt and pepper couples, while still uncommon statistically, are totally accepted by nearly all of society. You know, it wasn't that long ago that the use of hallucinogenic drugs and other substances was frowned upon by both society and the law. Partaking brain-changing drugs was considered a felony, and those doing it were pursued, rehabilitated, and/or incarcerated. Driving and working under the influence of such drugs resulted in near-epidemic levels of death and destruction. There was a hue and cry from the public to stop this. Today, in many states, and in the eyes of many Americans, these drugs and their use are considered acceptable behavior. While still against the law, federal law enforcement is reluctant to arrest or prosecute anybody using these drugs because the public, in general, accepts it as, again, part of the norm. It's not my norm. You know, not that long ago, the people objected most strenuously to the idea of socialism or communism. The very thought of being forced to live in a socialist republic made people blanch. We shook our fists. Hell no, we won't go. kill the red really dead. Well, we all knew the horrors of these religions. That's what communism, socialism are, is religions. And we're all aware that they brought only death and destruction in their wake. Today, a growing public is accepting, and many are embracing, the very thought of a socialist society in the United States of America. People have been so conditioned with the lies of communism and socialism, and they've been taught to ignore history, a history that's being rewritten every minute of every day. Unaware of many facets of the history of socialism and communism, the people are free to embrace the lies, the folly, the bullshit of a failed school of behavior, economics, and government. Socialism fails everywhere. The quality of everything goes down the toilet. Not that long ago, people went to church. Not that long ago, the overwhelming majority of Americans, they attended church services, temple worship, synagogues. The very Christian roots of our country served to remind us what a Bible-believing people can accomplish with faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. Today, the majority of Americans don't attend church at all. In fact, the explosive growth of atheism, agnosticism, and even devil worship has created a society largely devoid of morals or belief in God. We live in a godless land of ignorance and evil and embrace all of its warped and twisted beliefs. You know, it wasn't that long ago that Americans were largely patriotic. Americans' love of the flag and country, that was something the world looked upon and admired. Even our enemies respected us in that respect. Remembering those who died to secure our freedom, Americans held all elements of patriotism in reverence. Today, Americans don't even respect their borders, feeling that a whole world is one big family because that's how the socialists teach it. They also teach you that patriotism is wrong, and many, many Americans associate the word patriot with radical. Now, I can remember when joining the military was considered a noble deed. A professional soldier, his wasn't a job, it was a calling, more than just a career or a job. Our military was feared and respected worldwide, and the very presence of a highly qualified professional military kept our enemies in check. Today, we're parking ships for lack of crews to man them, from the Merchant Marine to the U.S. Navy regulars, in a special way, if they weren't especially woke, or DEI, that stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. The military is not accepting the truly patriot people, and a lot of people just aren't coming up to join. Today, our military is falling to pieces with infusions of woke and DEI, politically correct, diversity correct policies, videos they gotta watch. Good God, just saying ma'am isn't even right now. Gotta call a woman officer sir as well. What the hell is that about? Our soldiers, our sailors, our Marines, airmen, Coast Guard, and Space Force are carefully crafted in their beliefs to fit the model of the modern soldier, the woke soldier. Economically, fiscally, spiritually, legally, governmentally, and sexually, we have fallen so far as to be almost irreversible on all of these fronts. Our nation is so adept as accepting and even supporting and championing its failures as to appear doomed on all fronts. We need to pray to God. We need to vote for the right people. We need to spread the word of truth. We need to champion truth, justice, and the American way. If we just sit back on our asses, minding our own business, we are surely doomed. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. That's a quote from Edmund Burke. I'm Max, and that's the way I see it. That's a quote from me.